Good morning, Pinstripe Chronicles. I am Uncle Taz. I am here with Rob. Happy Friday. And we had a phenomenal series up in Toronto, taking 3 or 4. Even that one loss was really just a well-played, pitcher's duel that it was just a matter of time. When you get games like that, it's just a matter of who makes the first mistake. Unfortunately, it was the Yankees. But still, I think taking 3 out of 4 in Toronto was such a huge statement for this team going forward as players are starting to come off the IL and really regain their dominance. And we saw that with Judge. And Judge has had one of those series since he's come off the IL altogether. He is just on a tear. And everybody, I'm sure, is all for it. We're enjoying it. They poked the bear, like we said, and they pissed off that Yankee clubhouse going after their captain, and they made the Blue Jays pay for it. So, Rob, how is everything going? How are you feeling about the series?
I asked for at least a split. That was worst case scenario for me, and they got me a series win. So I can't complain. They did everything I needed them to do. I would have loved to have swept them, but you can't get too greedy. We're right back in the thick of the race. We're only 6.5 back now in the East, so it's no longer it's this huge deficit. It was once 10 games, so we've been able to close the gap a little bit. Tampa Bay starting to, get exposed a little bit in a sense. Their bullpen may not be too good. The Mets beat them up a little bit. So, yeah, it's looking pretty good right now. Yankees just got to keep on winning, keep getting healthy, and who knows what can happen by the time we get to the middle of the season and whatnot. But right now, this team is playing with a lot of confidence. The pitching's been really good. Nestor had a great start last night. He's been struggling, so that was good to see. Great series, and hopefully they can keep the momentum going against Cincinnati.
No, I think that when you get in the starts, they stretch, with Cole, Nestor being able to kind of grind out an extra inning or two to kind of give the bullpen a little bit of a break. I think that this was really, as much as the whole series as a whole was a statement for the offense, I also think that last night's performance from Cortez was really what we needed, because there were a lot of questions starting to circulate did he lose his magic? Did the lead catch up to him? And was he going to be able to make the adjustment? I think once he was able to get through a couple of innings, you kind of saw that confidence in him come back. So he was able to really start reminding us of who he's become through his career, that he can be a solid rotation piece for this rotation.
Yeah, I don't think last year was a fluke or anything, but you think about his first few starts this year, he was okay, and then like his last maybe like 3 or so, he's been getting touched up from the 5th inning on. So it's been a good 4 innings, and then he'll struggle. And you wonder if they're just kind of sitting on a pitch waiting for the cutter because that's his go-to pitch and whatnot. But, I mean, to see him do that against a really good Blue Jay lineup yesterday tells me that he's a guy that knows he has to make adjustments because he doesn't have the velocity. So he's always got to pitch with some finesse. So it tells me that he's always looking to make adjustments and always looking to get better, which is a great thing. And that's what you want to see from a pitcher. So, yeah, he was fantastic last night. Weber somehow once again comes through for us. So, I mean, the pitching did its thing yesterday, and we were able to come away with a very needed victory.
Yeah, it's just been one of the things that's kind of been very satisfying, I guess, this series, where some of the names that were coming through, more so in the bullpen, i.e. Weber, that you really weren't expecting anything from. And they kind of stepped up and was like, I'm not going to be the reason that things fall apart this series. And they were able to stay focused and get through, whether they put themselves in the jam or they were coming into a situation where there were runners on base. I think Weber kind of showed up this week. And that's reassuring. We know he's not going to be a long-term solution, but if we can get something out of him, I think that there's nothing else but positive things to say. And so, but before we really continue the discussion, what's going on, everybody in the chat? I see you up in here. Let's give we got Mazda in the building. We got TC. We got Jonathan in the house. We got FJ. Always good to see you in the chat. We got Medina, Sunil. I thought I saw. There he is. There's our friend. There's Li in the chat. Always there every day. All he is. We appreciate you all. And then on the Twitch stream, we got Diggs in the building. Going on, Diggs. So the overall, I think that one thing that we could all agree on is the fact now that we're starting to see the standings kind of close the gaps a little bit with the Rays leveling off, where 2 weeks ago we thought that everything was just going to completely collapse. And you're seeing a little bit of swagger in the Bronx, where we were all mocking the comment from Cashman where he had made the statement not to count them out. This team did not count. I think this team kind of backed them up. And I kind of think that everything as a whole is starting to come together, and we're going to see a more consistent game plan and consistent play from these guys.
Well, I don't want to lump myself into the group that was giving up on the season because there was still way too much baseball left. And even as bad as things were, if we've watched baseball long enough to know the season was far from over. And we all knew that this team just had to get healthy. Cashman was right to use the injury excuse. I know people are going to hate hearing that. They're going to think I'm defending him or whatever, but this is the year where you can truly say, or at least the start of the season, if it wasn't for the injuries, the team would be in a much better position. And that's not a hot take. That's just the truth. You're looking at the players we were missing and still are missing. There's no reason to believe, I've said this before, we wouldn't be in a better position. We'd be closer to Tampa. So Cashman saying don't give up on us is very normal for him because he does that every year when the team's starting to struggle. He comes out and gives a press conference saying, hey, we still got a good team. But he's right there and pointing out the fact that this team was very injured and still is very injured. I mean, we're playing one man down due to suspension. We just lost our second best or best relief pitcher, however you want to look at it, Nene Hamilton. And we're still down two of our best starters. We're still down multiple relief arms. And we're still down our second best to third best hitter, if you want to put him above or below Rizzo, and Giancarlo Stanton. So, and this team is still finding ways to fight. And since the calendar turned to May, this team has been fighting. And they fought with Tampa Bay. They gave them a great battle in Tampa Bay. I thought we could have taken at least two, but we almost took a series against them just the other day. So this team's battling. And yeah, I think Cashman was right to bring up the injuries because it's definitely a good point. Now he needs to stop doing it because a lot of the depth issues are his fault, but it's hard for a team to be able to overcome that many players and that much money on the IL at the same time. But we've been able to battle through it. And it tells you when this team is healthier, you can see why they're always a contender, right? Because it's a very good team. There's some holes on it for sure. We pointed those out since the 3-4 years we've been doing the show, but this is still a good team, a very good team that's going to win a lot of games when they got a healthy roster. And so I just don't like that people were giving up in April, giving up in the first week of May. It just made no sense to me. I knew that this team was going to be better when the players got back, and we're starting to see it little by little. And we've only gotten 2 players back. We've only gotten Bader and Judge so far. And we got some good news with Rodon. Sevy's been confirmed to start, I think Sunday is his confirmed start. So Canley's starting a rehab assignment. Ben Rortvedt is a real person, apparently. He just got called up. And we just lost Trevino. We can't even forget about that. He just got put on the IL. There goes our starting catcher. Another player we lost to injury. So it keeps kind of going in waves. But if this team can keep battling, that's all I need to see. And then by the end of the year, if we're healthy, I hope we can make a run.
No, at least with the catching situation, all right, because that is, the catcher is a very premier position in baseball. So when you're losing a guy like Trevino, it really hurts. And I was hanging out in the chat with the Yanks Morning Brew yesterday with Hector and TC, and they had on Dane from Yankees Farm, um, Julian, and they were bringing up the fact that not Chaparro. See, there you go, TC. There's your Chaparro mention. You know, with Voidvet, one, we were all surprised that he actually was a real person, but he's been tearing it up in AAA. He's been playing very well. So he might be, he's going to be the prime candidate, on this call up. And Carlos, that's right, TC. I apologize to Carlos. I couldn't remember his name. It's, you know, they're thinking of, obviously they're going to lean more towards Higgy as the starting catcher, and leave Voidvet as the backup. But would you flip that script, being that Higgy is not so much the a starting catcher, and he kind of does better in the backup role, and let Voidvet get his chance to kind of shine a little bit?
1000%. I think Rortvedt should start tonight, if we're being honest. I want to see what he can do in Yankee Stadium. I know he's not really known for being a power guy by any means, but we've gotten such little production from the offensive side, from the catcher spot. So if he can run into one, I mean, we saw what it's done for Calhoun, what it could do for Bowers, what it did for Cordero for that first week. So maybe he can run into a couple and we can get some offense. And I really think that this is his only shot to kind of somewhat get something positive from that trade with the Twins last year, because he's finally healthy. And I mean, hopefully, I don't know. I want to see him. I want to see him play. I know he's younger. I think he's like 25 or something like that. But give him a shot. I don't see why Higgy should not have a stranglehold in this position
Yeah.
for the time that Trevino's out. Higgy's good. Like every so often, he'll get you that big hit, and then he'll go quiet. But I want to see what Rortvedt can do. I'm not trying to make a claim he's going to be a top bat or anything. I just want to see what he can do. Why not? It's not like Higgy's Posada or anything. So we can get Rortvedt in there.
Yeah, no, I wanted to, we finally found out that he's a real person. At this point, especially in a series with Cincinnati, and not that any team can be taken lightly, unless it's Oakland, but I want to see I want to see another piece from that Twins trade to see if maybe we could, say it was a wash. We maybe got stuck with Donaldson, but look at what we've gotten from IKF in the utility role. He's filled that spot very well. I want to see now if Rortvedt can be that next piece to say, okay, you know what, this trade might not be as much of a wash as we look at it right now. I think that's what I want to see. I don't know if anybody in the chat agrees with me on that. No, I'm not. Yeah, you see, we can't take Cincy lightly. I'm not saying that, but I think the Cincinnati series is a good series to kind of see what he's got. Well, why not? It can't be. If you're thinking about Rortvedt or Higgy, it's not like there's a clear-cut winner of you can't bench that guy. But I would rather see Rortvedt over Higgy, at least for 2-3 games.
Yeah, and look, there's nothing that Rortvedt can do to justify that trade, right? Because IKF's been terrible. I don't care about his defense. I don't care that I like that he's willing to play anywhere, but he gets out on the bases a lot. He's not very good with the bat at all. So he's been a utility player, sure, but he's not a very good one. Donaldson hasn't played. He sliced his hand, apparently. I don't know what the hell he was doing, but so he's going to be out even longer. And that trade hindered a lot of what we could have done this offseason. So Ben Rortvedt can go on an absolute tear for 10 days. We know he's going to get sent down when Trevino's healthy. So there's not really – if we can just try to get something positive for a week, that's going to be the best thing we've gotten from this trade, because IKF wasn't good last year. He's not been good this year. Donaldson hasn't played this year, and he wasn't good last year. That trade sucked. It's probably the worst trade I think Cashman's ever made. But if we can get something, just something from Rortvedt. And then
Yeah,
maybe down the line it could be the backup or something, or maybe he's a trade piece in a future deal. I don't know, but right now we just got to give him a shot, see what he can do. Because I hate talking about that trade, but he was in that trade, and because he hasn't shown up yet, and he's finally real, we have to bring it up again. But yeah, it's going to be that deal that never stops getting talked about. Because think about all the things we missed out on because of taking on Josh Donaldson and IKF's contract.
yeah, it's gonna if we can get while Trevor's on the 10-day, if we can get those 10 days out of Royvet where he goes on a tear similar to Cordero, and obviously different positions, different but if we can just get at least something out of him where when we're not scratching our heads going, this is what we trade, this is who we've been waiting for, this is the guy that this is the mystery, it's not paying off. Now now the trade looks even worse than we already believe it to be. So I think that if with the way that Royvet's been playing in the minors, if he can carry that up here for a week, I think that is a huge win for the momentum of this team.
Yeah, and he's the reason that we had to go get Trevino anyway.
Yeah,
Because he got hurt. He was supposed to be the backup, or maybe even potentially the starter last year. Um, the whole idea of the trade was to get an improvement offensively over Urshela and Donaldson, which you base it off of 2021. Donaldson was better, but he was terrible last year, so that was a bad idea. IKF was supposed to be your shortstop, but you didn't need to make that move because Urshela would have been that guy. So yeah, and then Rortvedt was supposed to be the catcher, splitting time with Higgy from the left side of the plate. And obviously he got hurt and was hurt the entire year. So I don't really know what we're gonna get at Rortvedt, but if it's a good week, because how many games do you think he'll play in 10 days? Let's say Trevino is out for the minimum. How many games do you think he's actually gonna play? Maybe 4 or 5. So yeah, a Cordero like outburst would be nice, but then he'd be like, if you send him down, it's like, well, can we just kick Higgy to the curb? Because if Rortvedt's hitting, I don't want to stop that momentum. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know how long Trevino's out, but let's just see what we can get from the guy. I mean, we're talking about Ben Rortvedt here, but it's interesting because we kept talking about him as like a mythical creature, but he's real, apparently.
I kind of think that when it comes to with Trevino, because of the hamstring, all right, I think that's the reason. I don't think it's a serious injury. I don't think it's one of those that's really going to become a setback as far as him returning. I think because of his position, they're not going to take any chances, and you need catches on the bench, so let him get the 10 days off. Let him not have to worry about crouching down, and just let somebody else who's shown that he's able to take that spot for a week or so. That you the catcher position, you don't want to take that chance. Just put him. I think they're doing the right thing. Put him on the IL for the 10 days. Bring up a backup that's actually showing that he's got an ability to do something. It's not like you're just picking somebody off the street. I mean, Wells is playing very well, so but they're not gonna call him up just yet. They want to get him a little more seasoned. So do I. So I think that this is the right move at the right time. It just there's no right time for an injury. But what I'm saying is with the right time is because of the way that Royfest's been able to perform in the minors. At least you're not feeling like everything is just going to come to a halt and you're going to sink back in the division and the standings.
Yeah, we're not losing much of anything
Yeah.
offensively with Trevino. And if Rortvedt can just hit like 240 or something like that and get a couple of home runs, maybe, I don't know. We'll have to see. I really do hope he plays tonight because I want to see him. I just want to see him play. We saw Higgy yesterday. Maybe they'll do that thing where he doesn't want to play him 2 games in a row. But I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what he's made of. I didn't really know who he was at the time of the trade, and because he hasn't played till this year in AAA, we don't really know what to expect. So it's kind of like a rookie out of nowhere just getting the call up. We'll see what he can do. I want to see him play though. That much I will say. I don't know what my expectations are, but I do want to see him play.
Yeah, and with with the series coming up, I think another big piece that we're getting back, and it's I think the timing could not be better for the fan base, and that's we're going to get a chance to see Sevy on Sunday, and I think with all the drama with Herman, I think the timing of Sevy coming back into this rotation, I think if we ever were going to feel like we were got lucky and just kind of everything kind of fixed itself, this is really a situation like that.
Yeah, we're still going to be pitching a man down, but it's nice to know that at least that spot in the rotation will have to be filled.
Yep.
But they just got to find a way to get some innings out of the bullpen because I know Clay Holmes the other day got out of a big spot. I still don't trust him very much. I don't know if Weber's going to be either really good or really bad. There still could be that phantom injury thing they pull off, or they could just send down somebody and call up a fresh arm. Because I believe it's been 10 days since Garcia was sent down. And so they could find ways to navigate it throughout the 10-day span, which I think is now at 8. But yeah, it's good to have Sevy back, though, because he's important. As often as he gets hurt, when he's out there, he's still a really good pitcher. And we need that right now in this rotation, desperately.
We've seen what Sevy can do when he's healthy, when he's really Severino. He is one of the top pitches. I think he could easily be in that top 10 of a discussion of pitches in the league. Some people might put him a little higher on the list. I would just because of his injury history, we haven't seen him yet this year, so we don't have a previous start to go off of. Well, if he was able, if he could do what he did on opening weekend, we don't have that argument. So I'm curious to see how Stubby, bounces back into the routine, how he gets into the mix. I don't think there's going to be an issue with chemistry. It's not like he hasn't been in the organization. So the chemistry issue, I don't think is going to be a big factor. We need starters that can give us length because man, this bullpen has gotten the shit kicked out of them, and they're like scrapping to figure out how many pitches people thrown. You see the pitch chart, which I think is a joke. I don't think that this is the time to study that the stat book and say, well, he threw 9 pitches this day, he threw 10 pitches that day, so we can't use him today. I think that's got to go out the window right now. I think doing that, staying strict to that, is going to make things even worse.
Yeah, I mean, you also can't overwork anybody because these aren't starting pitchers. So, I mean, a Michael King can give you multiple innings a night potentially, but a guy like Clay Holmes, if he threw 15 pitches in one inning and he was wild, you might not want to use him the next day, although Aaron Boone does like to do that. So, but yeah, right now you really can't. You can't, but you really have to be aware of who you're using and when you're using them because the slightest hiccup can cost you a game. Again, you're pitching a one man down right now in your bullpen essentially, and your second best relief pitcher just got put on the shelf and he's going to be out for a month. So you got to hope Cordero can keep it up. You got to hope that Nick Ramirez can give you something. And if Ryan Weber can be that surprise bullpen arm this year, then great. That'd be great. And then maybe if Canely needs, I don't know how many outings in the rehab assignment, but if he can get maybe 4 or 5 and then he comes back, you got another arm back there as well. So there's definitely something to be positive with, but they got to find a way to navigate this next week until we get Herman back.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm not saying that they have to really overwork these pitches, but in a guy like, say, in Wandy Peralta's situation, I know in the beginning of the week he had a high pitch count for an inning. Then he had the off day, and then his 2 previous appearances, it was like single digits with his pitches. Maybe one of them was like 10 or 11 pitches. They say he wasn't available for yesterday, which is why we ended up going to Weber. So those are the situations where use the guys that are maybe not known for their length, but have the ability and the experience to maybe give them that third day in a row that they really don't like to do. But your goal right now is to just win the game. You need you. I don't think the Yankees, in the standings wise, in the media, with all the attention on them, they had to win that series. They needed that game last night. And when you see them go into Weber, you kind of you were on the edge of your seat, going, "On, this is going to be dangerous," especially you get the bases loaded. I mean, I was surprised that he got out of it the way he did, but I'll also give him the credit for having his composure, especially when they bring up somebody like Guerrero to pinch hit. You know, any pitcher could have buckled under the pressure, and Weber didn't.
Yeah, I mean, he could be that. Like I said, that surprise arm this year.
Diamond in the rough type guy.
Right. It was Wandy. We had Clay Holmes for that half a season. After we got him, he was really good. Lucas Litke was that guy for us or 2 years ago. So maybe he can be that guy. The Yankees always seem to find these bullpen arms. I know we've seen Weber a couple of times last year. He's been up and down and off, on and off the roster. But if he can stay and just pitch well, and he becomes reliable, I think he's a guy that can give you multiple innings, and you need that right now. You need a guy that can give you multiple innings in an outing until we can get that one roster spot back. And then I think when Herman comes back, it might be Brito that gets sent down, and then who knows who's healthy at what point. But they need the help as much as they can get, wherever they can get it. And if it's Weber, then great. We'll see what he can do the rest of the way through. But that's one thing the Yankees always seem to be able to do, is find really good, or just surprise relief arms. And it could be for one or two outings. Like Colton Brewer earlier this year was great, and then just got roughed up. We haven't seen him. But if he's good for a few outings for a week until he has to get sent down, then hey, we got more than we could have expected out of him.
Yeah, it's one of. I think the pitching kind of. They were starting to buckle a little bit, but didn't completely collapse. Yeah, and it's really amazing sometimes, or confusing, depending on what type of fan you are. On these guys that nobody's heard of, that just are like, okay, they're actually doing really well. We've been seeing it with Hamilton. You're starting to see a little bit of it with Weber. There's still a lot to be determined with him. But he could be one of those guys, like we were just saying, would be that diamond in the rough type guy, where it's like, where the hell did this guy come from? It's just one of those. We just gotta kind of wait it out until we get more of the. We're starting to get the offense healthy again. Now we just need the pitching staff to kind of get healthy. And like we were saying, this issue with Herman is not helping this team at all. Especially now when everything is kind of going and in our direction. We're climbing up the standings a little bit. So we really need this bullpen. We need Boone to learn how to manage a bullpen that's not going to have everybody pulling their hair out. I just don't know if he's going to be able to do that. I just don't have a lot of trust in the staff. But with the offense, it's good to see a lot of life coming back with them. I have the numbers. The Yankees put out this graphic with Judge's stats from the Toronto series, and it's just insane. Batting average, 429. On base percentage, 579, with a slugging of 1.357. That's insane. 4 home runs, 7 RBIs, and he also had 5 walks in the mix. You talk about making a statement. That's a statement.
I don't know how many times we have to say it, right? How lucky we are to have this guy on our team. And you see how important he is, because when he was out, you were just looking, can somebody just scrape a run across the board? Now that Aaron Judge is back, you're like, well, if we need a big hit, he's going to come through. that's just how it's been since he's come back. And he wasn't even really fully locked in against Oakland. He had a good series, which is Oakland, but here he is against Toronto, against good pitchers the entire way through. They got a really good pitching staff over there, and he's just tearing them up. And he once again, who starts the offense yesterday? Aaron Judge, first inning, 2-run home run. Like that set the tone for the entire game. So because we got shut down after that until we scraped a couple across at the end, which ended up helping us win. So he's the best player in baseball. He's the best player on this team. Again, worth every single penny. You said this the other day. We're not going to stop saying it because he's the best player. He is the best player in baseball. 1,000%.
Yeah, and you were able to see. I think that was a big contributor to Cortez being able to relax and kind of get back into his own game. When you're able to start your game with a lead, on the road is a huge advantage for the visiting pitcher because they could just kind of, as long as you get that first inning shut down. But we've been talking a lot about with the offense and the pitching, but let's talk a little bit about this defense, especially with Harrison Bader. When was the last time? I was trying to think back to the last time we had a center fielder that was able to track fly balls the way he has. And I'm struggling with the name. Obviously, Bernie, but have we had anybody in center field that's been able to just have that center field range like he does?
Ellsbury for a little while was good at it. When he was out there, he was a good center fielder. Not Bader like, but he was good. Brett Gardner was a good center fielder. Even Aaron Hicks was a good center fielder at one point. Judge was fantastic in center. I'm trying to think of who's been our center fielder since Bernie's retired, and we had Damon.
Damon was actually he had good range in the outfield.
He had good range, but he had a terrible arm, which is why he had to get shipped to we had Melky Cabrera for a little bit. I think he played some center field. Granderson, but he shifted over at later on in his career, I think.
Yeah.
Bader's fantastic. There's a reason why he's won so many gold. He's won Gold Gloves, and he's got one of the best outs above average among outfielders over the last 4 years or so. So,
yeah.
He's fantastic. He makes everything look easy, and it's like once a night he's getting the diving catch. If anything's hitting to the gap, which is why I wasn't too upset about them having Judge potentially play left field. Remember when everyone got an uproar about that and hasn't happened yet. But because of how good Bader is in center, he covers so much ground that he can help out whoever's in left or right field. And especially when he's moving towards left, he's just seeming like he's so comfortable out there, which is a great thing. And I'm saying it now, if he keeps this up, he might get extended because they're starting to play Dominguez in left field a little bit over there in Somerset. So maybe they have an idea that Dominguez could be the left fielder. Maybe they want to extend Bader. I don't know. If he plays like this the rest of the way through, it's going to be hard to sell the fan base on not extending him.
Yeah, no, I just when the ball's hit to the outfield with him in center field, it's almost you're not even on the edge of your seat. You just 99.9% of the time he's gonna track it down and make the catch, and that's such a breath of fresh air for the pitching staff and for anybody for fans that are watching, because you're not waiting for that that Hicks moment where he's giving up on it. You're not going to get that from this guy, and he is totally engaged in the game. I know we've been we've given a lot of attention to him the last couple of weeks, but Bader has just been like that breath of fresh air for this team that he's back into the mix.
They needed it. They needed the energy because the team looked defeated with everybody that was hurt, with the fact that we couldn't score. We were losing every day. We were 10 games back, and we were basically right above 500, and the sky was falling. And then Bader comes back and just starts hitting everything. And all of a sudden, we're going toe-to-toe with Tampa Bay, and everyone was like, well, what's Harrison Bader going to do? He's an average bat. He's a glove-first player. And just you saw how important just getting an average bat was to this lineup. Because if he's still hurt, we're still struggling to find offense. And he's been huge since coming back, and it's lengthened out the lineup because now you don't have to use Aaron Hicks or IKF every single day. You're allowed to give Bowers and Calhoun a little more playing time every so often, and they're not hitting in the 5 spot or the 4 spot anymore. Well, Bowers was leading off one a couple of days, but just it lengthens out the lineup, and it's going to be even better when we get Stanton back.
Oh yeah. When Stanton comes back, I think that's when we're going to really see everything start to click. Even maybe Donaldson, you could kind of. I don't know if him and Stanton could be on the same level, but because Stanton, just his presence in the lineup, no matter what he's doing, because he could check his swing and hit it over the wall. But I think that's even gonna the deeper you can make a lineup, the bigger the better the recipe is for a win. If we're able to get length from the starters and not have to use the bullpen so much, that's another part. That's another recipe. So I think this is going to be a really big series coming up. And we got Schmidt on the mound tonight against Lively. Not your marquee matchup, but what should we what do you think we should expect from Schmidt today?
I have zero expectations for Clark Schmidt. He's been terrible. I want to think his only good start came against Oakland. So maybe Cincinnati's a lot better than Oakland, though. So I don't know.
Yeah.
If he can give us 5 and keep us in the game, that's great. I had to keep it as low as possible of an expectation for him because he's been terrible, and I'm really upset about it because I was hoping he would have been that guy that can step up this year.
Yeah.
With the injuries, but it hasn't happened, and it's been basically a month and a half of just really bad pitching. His ERA is nearly 7, right?
Yeah, his ERA, right? Yeah, he's 1-4, and his ERA is 6.30.
That's terrible.
Well, that is not good. He's got if there's ever a day that he's got to kind of. I'm not even going to say. You know what? I'm not even going to say. I was going to say he's got to prove himself, but he's had multiple opportunities, and he's not been able to capitalize. Like you said, Oakland was his only win. That's pathetic. You're trying to make the rotation of the New York Yankees, and this is what you're giving. And if it wasn't for the injuries, you'd be in the bullpen or in the minor leagues working on becoming a better starting pitcher. I think if he could squeeze out 6 innings, 3 runs, one of those starts where we know you're going to give up a run or 2 or 3. Just keep us in the game. Don't let the game get away from us. But try to stretch yourself out an extra inning. This way, you do give that bullpen a little more of a rest.
Yeah, I mean, there's still part of me that wants to believe he could be a good starter, but I saw how good he was in the bullpen last year, and I was like, can we just keep him there? But after the deadline last year and the injuries this year, we had no other starting pitching depth that was major league ready.
Yeah.
So we had to use him as a starter. I do think he's better in the bullpen, though. I think his stuff just plays better out of the bullpen, where he's giving you maybe 2 innings instead of hoping he can give you 5. I think that's where he's running into trouble. He's trying to work quick, keep his pitch count down. He keeps throwing that cutter, but he can't get lefties out, which is you don't really want that out of a starting pitcher. That's more of we got 3 righties coming up here against the lineup. We're just going to bring in Clark Schmidt to get us out of this inning. I feel like he's more of a 1 to 2 inning bullpen guy, which is fine. A lot of the great bullpen arms are, I hate to call them failed, but guys that couldn't make it as a starting pitcher. Maybe that's him. I don't know. I still want to think that he can be a good major league pitcher, not great, maybe like a number 3 at best, but he's got great stuff. It's just, I think trying to go to that cutter has killed him.
I don't think the cutter is as effective as a pitch. It seems like that's the pitch this year with this staff. that they get beat on the most. So maybe they need to, I had suggested it in the chat with the Yankees brew yesterday, especially with Cortez. I think what they need to start doing is limiting the cutter and using that more as a, uh, the end of your, the end, like an end sequence type of pitch. Don't start off with a cutter because I think that they're waiting for it. They're sitting on that cutter because a lot of, for some reason, every pitcher is throwing one. So they're just waiting on it and they just, getting it, they're able to sit and wait for it to come across the zone at the right spot and we're getting tattooed on it. So I think that if they were able to limit the cutter and incorporate some type of other pitch, I think that would benefit them a lot more uh, than they think.
Well, with Nestor, that's his best pitch. That's the pitch he uses because he doesn't have the velocity. So he goes to the cutter. It's just his cutter hasn't been moving as much this year. So other guys are sitting on it waiting for the cutter and they're hitting him. That didn't happen yesterday, thankfully, but most of his starts this year, that's been the case. I know Pete's brought that up as well multiple times. And it's easy to see because the cutter is just kind of flat and it's coming at like 92. So he's getting tattooed on it. But lately, like you saw Garrett Cole try the cutter last year, it didn't work, and he just stopped using it, and then he got better.
Yeah.
I think Clark Schmidt needs to go back to not using it because that one start he used it less is when he had his best start. I think it was against Oakland. So I don't know, maybe get rid of it. You only use it sparingly, like you mentioned. He's got like a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. He's got a really good sinker. He's got a good breaking ball. Use those. I don't know why he's got to try to develop this new pitch. I know he said it helped him in the spring. He said, I feel great pitching, but if it's not working, it's got to be up to him and this pitching staff. Matt Blake's got to be like, look, it's not working. We got to try something different. Maybe this is the night where he can kind of get on a better roll. And we just need to get consistent starts. No one's asking him to be Garrett Cole. No one's asking him to be Sevy or Rodon. No one's even asking him to be Nestor from 2 years ago when he was pitching in the second half and just was lights out. Just give us 5, maybe 6, but just be Herman from last year. If you get Domingo Herman-like stuff from him, then great. Then you can rely on him the rest of the way through because Domingo Herman last year was giving us reliable quality starts, maybe not quality, but like good enough starts where you weren't out of the game and you can go out there and win. And you
like
felt
Montgomery.
like, okay, right. Montgomery's a lot better, but I think Herman, well, nah, not last year, but yeah.
No,
even like Montgomery, like stuff from last year. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
Someone is going to give you 6+, on some days. He was, you knew the runs were going to come, but he never let the game get away from him. He always was able to figure out how to navigate the end of an inning, unfazed by the home run ball. So, which is one of the things I really enjoyed watching. That's why I like Montgomery so much. I know he wasn't going to be that ace guy or that top level guy, but at least when he was on the mound, you still, he was going to keep you in the game. He wasn't going to let the game get away. That's what we need from Schmidt right now. Schmidt doesn't have to pitch 6 innings, 1 run. Like I said, if we can get 6 innings, 3 runs out of him, I think that I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, you got to keep your expectations incredibly low with him. This way, if he does give you 5, he gives up 2 runs, and the Yankees win 4-2 or 4-3 even. Hey, you get a win. You didn't pitch us out of a game because more likely, a lot of our losses this year have come on games that Clark Schmidt has started. What's his record? 1-5, or is it 1-6?
Yeah, Schmidt is
1-4. 1-4, but I know we've lost more starts that he's been out there for. So again, in a season that we've only played not even 50 games, 4 losses is a pretty big amount because you think about if he was just a little bit better, those are maybe 2 or 3 wins we could have had. He's pitched us out of a lot of games so far, so just pitch better. That's all I can say. Just pitch better. Hopefully, be a little bit better, and we can get some wins.
The opposing pitcher, is another righty and lively. He's 1-1 with a 1.69 ERA. So Schmidt's going to have a lot of pressure on him to hold their offense at bay because if you're going just by Lively's numbers, and I haven't seen him pitch, so I don't know what his stuff looks like. But when you're on a team and since when your ERA is 1.69, you got to be doing something right. So this offense might have its work cut out for him in the early innings, but I think when you get pitches like this, just like any ace on his staff, you got to get. I think if they could do like what they did last night, put up the crooked numbers in the first inning, and then let our pitcher pitch. Not have to be on the edge of his on his toes all night. I think getting out to a hot start because once these guys start to settle in, you're done. You're not. He's not going to give up many base runners. Never mind runs.
Yeah. However, I feel like this offense is starting to get into a bit of a, dare I say, groove that maybe they can finally be able to hit a guy with a good ERA. It's like if he has a good ERA, I actually feel more confident that we're going to hit. If he had like an ERA of 6, I'd be like, he's going to shut us down.
That actually does seem to happen a lot.
It happens a lot, too often, way too often.
Yeah, and usually it's either we have trouble with the guys with the high ERAs, or guys making their first career start. We always make them look like they're the next, Cy Young. But no, I think you're right. The low ERAs usually produce runs for us. But I think it's also it comes down to the first inning approach. Try to put his back against the wall before he gets to really settle in. I think that's going to be the key because they need to give they need to give Schmidt a little bit of breathing room, so he doesn't have to feel like he has to be perfect to keep that the offense is going to struggle. Because I think that was also part of Schmidt's problem, maybe even Brito too. That a lot of their starts was during when we weren't really clicking. So is it possible that because the offense was struggling so bad, they were putting a lot of pressure on themselves that they weren't really mentally prepared for?
Well, Schmidt was struggling from the get-go, even when we were hitting. Brito pitched a lot better early on, and then he's just kind of been a roller coaster. So I don't know really. I think the opener works so well for him. I wouldn't suggest trying that right now for Schmidt though, because we don't have enough pitchers.
No, we don't have the depth to do it twice in a rotation. No.
Yeah, but I still think Schmidt at some point is going to be a bullpen arm.
Yeah, I think with Sevi coming in, I don't know what the corresponding move would be. But I think when Rodon gets back as well, I think that's where Schmidt will lose his rotation spot. I think that's a very safe bet.
I don't know if they have to DFA somebody for Sevi because they won't do that till Sunday, obviously. Do you send down Nick Ramirez, but then
they just
you hurt.
Get rid of Abreu.
No, they don't want to get rid of Abreu. They should have done that after his last outing.
Yeah, I know.
They should have done it right then and there. Although I was shocked when he was able to get out of that yesterday. I don't know. I really don't know. If he gets called up Sunday, you're not going to send down Brito. You're not going to send down Schmidt. It's probably going to be Nick Ramirez.
Either Nick Ramirez or Weber. But I don't know if Weber would be. I don't know his option situation.
I think you'd have to DFA him.
Yeah.
No one's picking up Nick Ramirez on waivers. I don't think.
Yeah.
It'd probably be him, but then you're another arm short in the bullpen.
Well, see, and that's the problem. That's where it all comes down to. This whole thing with Herman is just really making such a difficult situation with managing these arms. You just made it freaking 10 times worse because it's not even like it's he's just missing a start. He's missing 2 starts, so you don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. Usually there's an avenue to see. All right, that this would make sense. This would nothing would make sense because you're already taking from a weakness.
Right, and it's not like you can replace. You can't. The fact you can't replace his roster spots
Yeah,
was really hurting us. If he was suspended, you just call up anybody, and then you get Sevi back, and you don't have to worry about it. But the fact that you can't replace his roster spots, what's worse about it? Because it's such a stupid, and it's a punishment for your guy being stupid.
yeah,
So maybe next time he'll learn his lesson.
yeah. God, I hope so. But we shall see. But that's gonna wrap things up for us on this Friday. I want to thank everybody in the chat. I know you guys are awesome as always. We got Acevedo, Sunil, TC, you got FJ, Mazza, LA Yankee King, Olias, Jonathan. We appreciate you all. We hope you all have a great weekend with some Yankee wins. Don't forget to tune in Sunday at 11 a.m. for the ladies on the upper deck, and starting on the 27th. That Saturday, 10 p.m. Maz and I will be debuting the Pinstripe Express. So make sure that you set your notifications for that. We will be back on Monday. We will break down the whole weekend from the Cincinnati series. And as always, wear your pinstripes, your pride, and play hard.